Have you ever wondered what really happens when someone dares to summon Bloody Mary? Why some people swear the mirror moves, or that a shadow stares back? Why so many disappear without a trace? This story is not an urban legend. It happened to a real man named Andrew Collins from Ohio. On a cold October night, after a dare at a Halloween gathering, he walked into his upstairs bathroom, turned off the lights, and faced the mirror completely alone. He wasn't drunk, he wasn't joking, and he wasn't expecting anything to happen, but he would be the last person in the house to come back downstairs. What happened inside that bathroom stayed hidden for years, until investigators found his recorded confession. What you're about to hear is the final 15-minute story he left behind.
Andrew begins by explaining the dare. His friends mocked him, asking if he was scared of a children's ritual. He wasn't. He laughed it off, saying ghosts don't exist, and Bloody Mary was a story invented to keep kids from playing in the dark. But something felt off that night. The house they rented was old, built in 1894, and locals claimed a woman had been murdered there in front of a bathroom mirror. Andrew didn't believe that part either. But the moment he entered the bathroom, he felt a strange heaviness in the air, as if someone had been waiting for him. The lights flickered once before going completely out. He thought it was just bad wiring. Still, he hesitated before whispering the name he had always considered a joke: Bloody Mary.
He expected silence. Instead, the pipes groaned. A long, low creak echoed from inside the walls. He stared into the mirror, barely able to see his own outline. His reflection looked wrong, slightly delayed, like an old TV with a slow refresh rate. Andrew leaned closer. His breath fogged the glass, yet his reflection didn't mimic it at the same time. For the first time that night, fear slicked down his spine. He shook his head and said, "Bloody Mary," a second time, louder. The house fell silent. Even the ticking clock from downstairs vanished, the kind of silence that felt alive. He waited for something to happen. Nothing did. He smirked nervously, ready to turn the lights back on, and then, behind him, he heard soft footsteps on the bathroom tiles.
He spun around, but no one was there. The bathroom door was shut. The footsteps had sounded close, too close, as if someone barefoot had walked past him. Andrew swallowed his fear and forced himself to turn back toward the mirror. His reflection wasn't matching his movements anymore. When he turned his head, the reflection lagged behind, still staring straight forward before slowly turning. His heart pounded. He tried brushing it off as his eyes adjusting to the dark, but his reflection suddenly smiled, an expression he didn't make. The smile was wide, unnaturally stretched. Andrew stumbled backward and whispered the name for the third time, not out of bravery but desperation. "Bloody Mary!" The moment the words left his mouth, the reflection's eyes darkened, turning hollow and black. And then slowly, the mirror cracked from the inside. The crack slithered across the glass like a living thing. Andrew panicked and reached for the door handle, but the door wouldn't budge. Something cold wrapped around his ankle. Nothing he could see, only feel. It tugged gently at first, then harder. He kicked and scrambled, clawing at the floor tiles as he tried to escape whatever had him. Suddenly, the cold grip disappeared. He gasped for breath, heart thundering. Then, a faint whisper floated around him, not from the mirror, not from himself, but from everywhere at once. "Stay." Andrew froze. He didn't want to look at the mirror again, but he felt something drawing him in. When he finally forced himself to look, the reflection was gone. The mirror showed only the empty bathroom. No Andrew, no movement, just darkness. Confused and terrified, Andrew waved his hand in front of the mirror. Nothing. The surface reflected the room perfectly, except for him. He no longer existed within the glass. He banged against the mirror, desperate to break it.
but the cracked surface remained unshattered, as if stronger than before. Then slowly, his reflection returned, but it wasn't mimicking him. It stood perfectly still, its head slightly tilted, eyes pitch black. Andrew backed away, but every step he took, the reflection stepped forward. When he pressed his back to the wall, the reflection pressed its hands against the inside of the mirror, palms flat against the glass, pushing hard enough for the cracks to widen. A faint outline of a woman's face formed behind the reflection, her smile sharp, ancient, and hungry. The woman's face hovered behind the reflection, eyes wide and unblinking. Her hair floated as if underwater. Andrew's breath hitched in his throat as she leaned forward, pressing her face against the back of the mirror. The glass bulged outward, bending impossibly like a soft membrane. Andrew scrambled for something, anything, to defend himself, but the bathroom was bare. Then, with a sickening crack, a hand pushed through the mirror. A pale, bony arm reached out, dripping black liquid like oil. The fingers curled toward him. Andrew slipped, falling onto the floor. His screams were swallowed by the room, unheard. The hand grabbed his wrist, icy and impossibly strong. He felt his skin burn where it touched him. The reflection mouthed something silently, and Andrew realized it was whispering the same name he had summoned. The room spun, his vision blurred. The thing pulling him wasn't just a hand. It felt like the entire mirror was trying to consume him. Andrew clawed at the floor tiles, but they slickened with cold moisture that hadn't been there before. The woman's face pushed farther out of the glass, as if trying to crawl into the bathroom. Her eyes were hollow voids, her teeth jagged like broken porcelain. She opened her mouth wide enough to crack her jaw. From inside her throat, a second face appeared, the same as Andrew's reflection. It laughed silently. The pull strengthened. His bonds felt like they were being stretched toward the mirror, and then, with sudden force, the hand released him. He sprawled across the bathroom, gasping. The mirror's surface smoothed, erasing the horrific figure's entirety. Andrew felt relief for a moment until he noticed something wrong. His shadow on the floor was moving, not by light, not by motion. It moved on its own. It stretched long, reaching for the mirror, then snapped back. Andrew stared in frozen horror. His shadow twisted into a shape he didn't recognize. Thin, elongated fingers and a head that wasn't his. It slowly turned toward him. He scrambled to the door again, but the knob was gone. Not broken, gone. The wood was smooth, as if it had never had a handle. Andrew pounded and screamed for his friends. No answer. The shadow crawled up the wall. When it reached the mirror, it slipped inside like liquid darkness. The reflection reappeared, his own body, but it blinked too slowly. And then it smiled again. The reflection raised its hand. Andrew didn't. It tilted its head. Andrew didn't. Then, with a sudden jerk, it slammed its palm against the inside of the mirror. The entire bathroom trembled. Andrew stumbled back. The reflection mouthed, "Trade." His breath froze. The reflection pressed harder, cracking the glass further. Andrew watched his own face distort behind the fractures, the smile stretching unnaturally. Blood seeped from the cracks. Not his blood, but something thicker, darker. The reflection moved its hand slowly across the inside surface, writing a word in the spreading crimson. Now! Andrew felt pressure behind him, like fingers lightly brushing his back. He didn't dare turn around. The room temperature plummeted. Frost formed on the sink. The whisper came again, closer this time, right beside his ear. "Trade places." Andrew refused. He shook his head violently, backing into the corner. The reflection's face twisted, the smile collapsing into a hideous snarl. The woman's face began forming again behind it. The mirror pulsed like a beating heart. Andrew braced himself as the glass suddenly exploded outward. Shards scattered across the room, but instead of falling, they floated, suspended mid-air, spinning slowly. In each piece, he saw fragments of himself, but not normal fragments. Each shard showed a different, distorted version of him. One screaming silently, one with hollow eyes, one with his mouth sewn shut. The shards rotated faster. He covered his face. A deafening shriek erupted from the mirror frame, and then everything froze. The shards halted. The reflection stood in the empty frame, staring directly at him without blinking.
The reflection stepped out of the frame. Its movements were stiff at first, then smoother, more human. Andrew stared in silent disbelief as his own duplicate approached him. It crouched beside him, scanning his face with slow curiosity, like an animal studying another of its kind. Then it whispered, "You called her." Andrew shook his head. The duplicate leaned closer. "You belong to her." Its breath was cold enough to sting his skin. Andrew tried to speak, but no words came. The duplicate placed a hand on his chest. His body convulsed with pain. It felt like something was trying to pull his soul out through his ribs. The bathroom tiles rattled violently. The woman's face reformed inside the empty mirror frame, her mouth widening unnaturally. She began to whisper his name.
Her voice slithered through the room, echoing from every wall. Andrew. The duplicate tightened its grip on his chest. Andrew gasped, feeling his heartbeat weaken. He pushed against the duplicate, but his hands passed through it like smoke. The duplicate's face suddenly shifted, eyes turning into pure darkness, mouth stretching. The tiles cracked beneath Andrew as the room vibrated harder. The mirror frame pulsed with light, drawing him toward it. The duplicate whispered, "Return what you borrowed." Andrew didn't understand until he remembered the stories. Bloody Mary wasn't summoned for fun. She demanded an offering, a trade, a soul for a glimpse. Andrew screamed as the mirror's pull became unbearable. The woman's hand reached through the frame again, clutching at the air, searching for him. Her fingers brushed his shirt. In a surge of panic, Andrew grabbed the largest floating shard of glass and plunged it into his own reflection's chest. The duplicate staggered backward, black liquid pouring from the wound. It shrieked with a sound that rattled the walls. The mirror's pull weakened. Andrew scrambled toward the door, pounding on it until his hands bled. The duplicate collapsed, melting into a pool of dark sludge that seeped back toward the mirror frame. The woman inside the mirror snarled, furious. Her hand reached out once more, but the frame began to crack, unable to hold her form. The shards fell from the air, clattering onto the floor. Andrew felt a sudden release. The force pulling him vanished. The mirror collapsed entirely, leaving only splintered wood and darkness behind it. Andrew finally burst out of the bathroom, except he didn't. When the lights in the hallway flickered back on, his friends saw him calmly walking downstairs. But the man who walked out wasn't Andrew. His movements were too smooth, his eyes too dark, and his smile too slow. He sat with his friends for the rest of the night, laughing at their jokes, pretending nothing had happened. It wasn't until days later that the real Andrew's confession was found, recorded inside the destroyed bathroom, a place no one remembered him going into. And as for the man who came downstairs, he vanished after 2 weeks, leaving only a smear of blackened fingerprints on his mirror at home. So ask yourself,
If Bloody Mary demands a trade, who do you think she sent back in his place?